So now we're going to put the lights in the front of the vehicle. In fact, you can see I've already done two here. There are some convenient holes for the actual LED wires to go through, and to make it simple I'm going to use those. I've actually inserted here a yellow LED for the indicator and a white LED for the headlamp, and to hold them in place I've actually given them a little coating of epoxy resin just to hold them in place and to effectively provide a kind of screen for the lamps themselves. So here we are threading the LEDs through the holes in the front. One little point to bear in mind is that when you have two LEDs right next to each other, they are likely to touch, so it makes sense to make sure that the common positive is on the touching side, so to speak. Okay, let's see if we can ease this one in carefully, and we're almost in the right position. Alright, we now have the LEDs actually lined up, so I'll now drop a small amount of epoxy on top of that to seal it so that the two sides actually match up. After fitting the LEDs, it's always worth checking to make sure that they are still functioning. So here is the white light, or the headlight, showing up, and there is the indicator. The other ones I have already checked. To solder the small SMD LEDs, first of all I start usually by just tinning each side of the little LED. I have tinned the end of the lacquered wire, so that's a case of just very carefully holding it in position and applying the solder to the appropriate point. That should hold it. And now we apply the other side of wire on the other side, actually the negative side. Again, try and hold it steady while we apply it. If your position is not happy with it, just release it and solder again. When both wires have been soldered, release it from the clamp and then actually trim the wires to an appropriate length so that they're not too long. By putting this amount of pressure, you also ensure you find out whether in fact you have a good soldered joint or not. If you haven't, they tend to come apart. Just a quick trim, and there we have actually the infrared LED already soldered, ready to be fitted. So you can see we've put in the front lights and the infrared transistors which will actually receive the messages, and we've just sort of like tidied it up behind a little bit so that all our wires which need to go to the chip are actually all together. The light cluster on the rear of this coach are quite large, so we'll probably cut out this whole section, and then behind it place a piece of ferro board to which I will attach the LEDs. Here we can see the light cluster, and we just need to check it. So here's the common positive, indicator lights, rear lights, brake lights, indicator lights. All seem to be functioning perfectly. As you can see, I've now cut out where the light clusters were, so we can now take the little cluster we've actually made and actually insert it behind. And that is the position that the light clusters will be in. The rear of the vehicle is almost complete. You can see that we have actually put here the translucent covers back on the light clusters and made two holes for the infrared LEDs. These LEDs are used for distance control between the vehicles. So here we can see the rear of the vehicle. This is where the infrared LEDs are. And we will need to fit in this small piece of PCB on which I mounted the rear LEDs, but before we do that we do need to actually put in the interior. So I've actually finished off the interior by actually adding just a few figures, and this needs to be fitted before fitting the rear light cluster. So here is the vehicle with the seats inserted. Try to sort out the wires a little bit. These three wires, which are actually from the headlight and from the infrared transistors, will go directly to the chip. These two, which go to the indicators, will need to go to a junction. Likewise, I've temporarily separated the wires at the rear. I've not yet fitted the cluster. As you can see, it's still here, and there's still a certain amount of work to do before that actually needs to go into place. In the next part we will look at preparing the wiring and also the fitting of a hall sensor.